Blessings. Welcome to this episode, Prophecy for the Last Hour. My name is Liz McGee, and I have a lot of wisdom and understanding, I believe, to impart. So I study, a lot of the mystical texts, a lot of the esoteric writings, along with the Torah, a lot of reading, but I don't do it just for head knowledge or to, act all big and bad that I've read all these extra biblical books. It's so that I can know Elohim, so that I can understand our faith, grow closer, grow holier. I mean, there's a real personal quest in all this, but it has worked. It has happened. I do feel like I've had a lot of breakthroughs in my personal life and in my spirituality and how I relate to Hashem, how I perceive. And it is so, I would never trade where I am today for anything in the world, because I feel so, my soul is enlarged. It's one of the things David says. I feel like I have such a deeper, broader understanding, which has helped me. One of the things, and I kind of laughed, and like I've always said, I say a lot, that it really irritates me because a lot of this understanding that is in our Torah is in being repackaged and sold back to people or given back to people by teachers as, New Age and the Eastern religions, and they're so spiritual, and us Westerners, we're so, impoverished in our understanding, which to a certain extent is true. But, all right, let me get to this. So Feng Shui, if you ever heard of it, is a Eastern kind of understanding and like home decorating, but it's much deeper than that. See, that's what the profane would say, but it's an understanding. So what I want to say really quick is that I have really come into a higher level of consciousness and understanding, intention, and purposeful living, where I am really trying to connect in everything I do, thought, word, and deed, to Hashem and to I don't want to, some of these words, to my Heavenly Father's spirit, all right, who we know is spirit, right? He's not male or female, he is, Yahweh is spirit, okay? So but the thing is like, strange way is that there's always a connectedness. I really understood this thing called law of correspondences, or I would actually say it better, the law of correspondences. So you have to think of it like from the highest heavens, from where Yahweh sits on his throne, all the way down to the little sluggard ant on the ground, be that if it's us, whatever, parabolically. There's a channel, there's a flow, there's a connectedness. And while it might be all tangled up, like it might be broken, it might be very dirty, whatever, there is still a connectedness that, I told you can't break, all right? No one can take your soul out of Yahweh's purveyance or his providence except you yourself, all right? By your own free will. But my point is, it's so powerful. This is part of the power that is inherent, that is all the way back to Enoch. It's in the Torah. This is what Moshe was establishing for the people, a way to live in your body, in your soul, and in your spirit, in a sense of correspondedness with the heavens. So everything is a straight conduit. So the power, the blessing, the emanation, whatever, just comes straight through. Now, there's a wonderful Kabbalistic prayer meditation that I love to listen to. It really ministers to my soul. And there's a couple of good videos on YouTube. You should check it out, called Anabakosh. Anabakosh is a Kabbalistic prayer that has recently been put to music, and it's beautiful. It's like, the Amazing Grace. It's greater than the Amazing Grace of, the Christian world per se. It's very lyrical, but there's a part in there where it says, we beg you, Hashem, untangle our knots. This is a kind of, we are knotted up, whether it's an emotion, whether you have a burning resentment that you just cannot get past. It's a knot, it's a tangle of emotions, or whatever it is. You have a physical besetting sin that you do that just, even if it's addicted to coke, whatever, these are things that are a little, that your intention is not as purposeful. Other things are coming into play here. So what we need to do, the whole concept of spirituality, the whole concept of is to learn how to straighten everything out, and in all of our different, and I'm going to get into this now, it's a different levels of our soul in different ways, to come into alignment and harmony, to come into peace, to make the crooked places straight so that this river can just flow, and bless everything along the way. These are some of the concepts. So it really has things like that. I have really worked at my appetites. I finally, this is a big thing for aesthetic, mystical people. This is a big understanding. You need to have control of your appetites, food. You need to have control, of your emotions. You need to a certain extent, the Kabbalah says, you need to become stoic, which means, in another way of saying, is you need to become so balanced that even if somebody praises you, you don't let it go to your head. Even if somebody speaks negatively about you, or with evil intent or whatever, you don't take it personally. There's a place that you can get to where it's just whatever, Hashem's in control. I mean, whatever, vengeance is mine, says Lord, where you can have a perfect peace and a balance. So these are things. So for one thing, I would want to just tell people my own personal testimony. Oh my gosh, I just feel so enlarged. I guess my soul, my faith has grown. I feel very close to Hashem. I understand. So this is the concept of getting wisdom and getting understanding. But it cracked me up when I read this thing about Feng Shui and so much in the temple. I mean, seriously, they're doing this concept where they're making a complete correspondence. This is not intellectual. I guess my point is there's nothing intellectual about this. There's nothing arbitrary. The rabbis didn't sit around or say like, how can we make a neat little kind of service for the people and keep them interested in us? No, this is so divinely legislated, divinely revealed, divinely from the top down, trying to get us into correspondence with heaven. Oh my gosh. All right. So a couple of ideas I'm going to go through quick, where these are some of the pitfalls. One, there's a very famous story, I don't know if you're familiar with, in this whole idea of mysticism, called when you go into, pards, when you learn pards, or you go into the orchard. A lot of times in Kabbalistic writings, they call the orchard, they call that is the whole spiritual, the garden, all right? The whole spiritual world that Yahweh created. That we interact with is really the garden, okay? And we, let me see this. There are pitfalls. So now that we're not like center in the garden, other things can influence us, because obviously there's a lot of pitfalls along the way. So these are some of them I want to go through. One thing that's being corrected today, if you're really, following, is that the idea that like John, okay, so they're always trying to, in the scholarly world of all these texts, they're trying to parse it and figure it out. And to me, unless you have deep faith and you really are listening to the Ruach, you'll never put it together. It's a Ruach job to get people to be able to navigate through all of the different mental and constructs that are out there, all right? This is what it means when the Ruach will lead you into all truth, will lead you through many of these landmines, is what it is. Okay, so for many centuries, really, scholars believe that John, the writer of the Gospels, borrowed his concepts of the Logos, because John, like I said, is the Essene. He's the mystic in the group of the four Gospels. That he got his ideas from the Greeks, and that the Gospel was written by a Greek convert and from a Greek point of view. Now, much Gentile Christianity is absolutely Greek philosophy repackaged with kind of some Torah veneer on it, really. But ultimately, originally, it's absolutely clear this is the point, and this is what is being proven scholarly by the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is why it's so important for you to study the Dead Sea Scrolls, is because it's being proven right now that the Dead Sea Scrolls, that body of literature, is early church Greek philosophy, and it lines up 100% with the mystical Zoharic writings that have been kept through the House of Judah. Okay, so that can't be an accident. The true root, if you can get into it, it is through the Essenes, the Zadokites, through that, getting through that Hasmonean period, getting back to a remnant, our prophets, and then getting back through Moshe and getting back through Enoch. There is a line, there is a straight path. I believe this, okay? But that's one of the things that has to go by the wayside, all right? We have to come back, and this is when we talk our Hebrew roots. The Greeks have a lot of information. In my opinion, this is the whole point. They and this is why the Western mindset, they lost so much of their soul of Torah, the mystical understanding, because to the Greek, it's just all intellectual, but not to the Hebrew. All right. It's very real. I mean, this is what I'm saying. These spiritual worlds are very, very real. All right. So another one is, and this is where our Torah, because it addresses these kind of people. Paul addresses the Greeks. I mean, he addresses these worldviews, these kind of things. All right. Atheists or profaners, or people who just won't believe in Elohim, even though it's apparent that there's a creator out there. I mean, seriously. So atheists destroy and pollute the deity, the spark, or what do you want, the God. And I don't want, these people, our spiritual essence, our ultimate connect, because we were known before the foundations of the world. So in order to have that, there has to be something in us, some kind of honing device or something, right? So that is called the Logos. They destroy this image of Elohim. It's the image of Elohim that we're made in, all right? So profaners, atheists, rebels, wicked people, evil people, people who just will not bow the knee, this kind of thing. This is a true nature of a large part of the poor population. And all of us fall into this category at some point over some kind of sins. These people, though, they have failed to make themselves an acceptable vessel for the divine marriage when it happens to enter into them with the indwelling Logos. So in other words, if you are not, like if you don't if you don't get dressed and go to the wedding, and if you're not an invited guest and you're not there and you're not receiving, you missed it. Okay, this is part of the, in the parable of those, he went out in the street and asked people to come, and they said they were busy, and then he went and said, well, we'll get anybody and bring them in. I mean, this is part of it. So there is a lot in the Torah, and this is why the law of correspondence is important, because it leads to my next pitfall, which is the big one, which is that Christians, the evangelicals, and this is the part of, if you can follow me, this is the part of Christianity that the Jews, the Kabbalists, the tapped in Torah sages understand, and they call it Edom. All right, they call us by the time of Edom. It's because Christians maintain today that they are saved by faith totally apart from any actions or works. All right, that is a very distorted doctrine. It's not Hebraic. And what is really being, let me put it, the reason for doing the action or the work is so that you can get, like I said before, connected to the divine spiritual energy, and you can be part of a straight conduit of flow. Okay, that's the reason. All right. And as a man thinketh, so is he. So because there's a disconnect. Oh, Christians think they're saved by grace and they can live any way they want. Well, I'm sorry, but that is a lie. That is truly a lie. And that's why, it says in that day, lawless ones will come before and say, hey, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we do great miracles? And he'll say, away from me, you lawless ones. All right, you non-Torah keeping people, you just didn't get it. And actually, this is something that's in our spirit. This is what the part of the good consciousness is. This is not rocket science. Most people really can't figure out, you need to be good, you need to be holy, you need to be moral, all right? And do try the best they can. But if we Christians, if the Christian would go back to Torah and get the understanding of the connection between actions and works accurately and correctly, powerhouse we could be. Unbelievable. It is coming back. It is. So we need to repent of this sin, really and truly. This is part of if my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Okay, a last one on a positive note, okay? So to recap, we have atheists, you have people who will just destroy and pollute themselves and anything Torah related. You have the concept really, which is another foil by Hasatan to trick your mind into not believing the text, thinking that all of this is really Greek philosophy when it's not. And we can prove this academically with the Dead Sea Scrolls when you read deeply and broadly and get the big picture from the, you see that very clearly, okay? And that Christians, that there is no connection, all right, between, because where I'm going with all this, this kind of connection is because lately I've been really understanding, okay, why would the Jews, this is one of the things rabbis have said, that prophecy ceased, okay, at the time of Ezra. And why would they say that? I mean, it's like, I think about that. I'm like, well, where'd they get that from? What head did they pull that out of? Okay. There's a very good reason. And I'm beginning to understand, because Christians, what we'll say, just say, oh, well, Paul says that there's a spirit of prophecy today, and there's prophets and this kind of stuff. So but it's levels. See, and this is all you said, biblical prophets like an Isaiah or this level of prophetic attainment, this level of consciousness has, by and large, very rarely exhibit itself on the world stage. I mean, we had Yeshua, obviously, right? Yeshua. And there's a whole, and I can see these elevated souls, and I'm going to get into that, all right? But Elijah the prophet says, because so I've been trying to figure out, what are they talking about, all right? Because I've learned, because there's many different levels, just because you assume you know what level they're talking about it on, don't assume you do. Because they're way beyond me. They're way beyond the gift of prophecy that I could get by inspiration of the Holy Spirit down here as a Christian, and the level that Isaiah is on, where he has trained his mind and he is literally in the holy place at the meeting, okay? For a sustained period of time to get a clear, coherent, prophecy foretelling the future, plus the context, plus the ramifications, plus, I mean, it's amazing. All right, so what I've learned is that what they're really doing, these are levels of consciousness, that the Torah really is talking to us. Everything about it is what we need people just really, because I think this fits with what people are doing today, with all this new age information, how you can train your mind, how you can do you can manifest things through the mind. I mean, this is real, people. So this is tapping into, quote unquote, what they call the universe. But to the Jewish mind, to the true Hebrew mind, to the true firstborn son of Elohim, what we know and always understand is that there's always something higher, that the most high Yahweh is above the universe. Okay. Now, so Elijah the prophet, there are a couple of characters, or like we're going to say personifications, souls, so to speak, that are talked about over and over in the literature. Metatron, Enoch, Elijah, and these Moshe even. And so it says that when a person, there's a very famous quote by Elijah, because Elijah was a prophet, he had a school of prophets. Elijah is very much in a tradition stream of, like, the level of Elijah will be, he will come and he will, not his spirit, his level, his soul level root understanding, you can follow him on it. Now, there's many levels of this, and I don't want to go into, because I know how people like to trap people in their words. But the point is, Elijah is a disseminator of truth. In his tradition, he is very accessible to us, to explain to us prophetic meanings, understandings, all right? He is, but you have, Enoch was the same way. We, unfortunately, for a couple 2,000 years, we lost the Enoch component to this thing. That's what's coming back to us. All right, that's one of the major things. But Elijah says that he calls heaven and earth to bear witness that any person, Jew or Gentile, man or woman, freeman or slave, if his deeds are worthy, then Ruach HaKodesh will descend upon him. All right, so he is saying that people can attain a level of Ruach HaKodesh, and like I said, this will relate why Paul could say, I can get a word of prophecy, a word of knowledge, if his deeds are worthy. See, there is this connection, and this is what I want, because I guess the point is, these prophets truly understood the spiritual dimensions, and if you are out there in levels of consciousness, you don't want to get hijacked. Like, let me put it this way, let's put it this way, magicians, Balaam, when he was being called to curse the children of Israel, to literally get a pact going with heavenly powers that, they would do everything in their power to destroy Israel. And Balaam was like, well, I can't. There's nothing strong enough that I know of really to go against these people. We'll have to try another tact. We'll have to get them to sin or do something else. So but it is living in this level of Ruach HaKodesh, and that was always the goal that Yahweh wanted his people, his visible nation, these united 12 tribes who were priests and kings, so to speak, to operate on. And unfortunately, we know the history, it's whatever. But we are going to have a resurrection. It's all going to turn out okay. So before I go into what now I'm beginning to understand is going on with the prophets, where they are, what the experience is like, what is the discipline, and let me just do a quick review of how this is so embedded in the text. This is so biblical, okay? And we just need better teaching, in my opinion. Okay, so, this verse says, a man thinketh, so is he. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. For out of the heart come the issues of life. I meditate upon your Torah day and night. There's all these admonitions in the text where the prophets or David or whoever say, I'm constantly in your presence. I try to live, every thought, word, and deed, my body, soul, and spirit. There's so many different ways living in your presence. Okay, that's try to keep your whole persona. This is what I said. Sometimes I feel like I got this whole tree of life above my head. It's so funny. It's big deer antlers. I don't know. It's really, but if you understand the tree of life, we're not alone down here. I mean, I feel so connected. All right. Anyways, there is, all right, one of the things, and I have some teachers that always kind of intrigue me, what does gold and silver and copper, there's constant usages of certain metals in relation to things, and these go usually in like wisdom and understanding. Chokmah and Bida is a lot of times referred to, code name is gold and silver. And then there's copper. Well, what they're doing, but see, this is the thing. Gold and silver, okay, so gold will remain shiny the longest. They have different properties. Silver will tarnish in time and needs to be cleaned up. And this is we know this. This is their concept of chasing of the Lord. And copper is the cheapest, the most common. Okay, so, but plasma is the best, all right? If you were to go out and conductors of electricity, and basically this is the point where I was saying connectedness. Everything in the physical is telling you that there is in the world above it, another spiritual level above it, and there's many, where that same principle, that same archetype is being played out. That's why once you establish these archetypes, wherever world you go, you can kind of plug in the correct theological construct. So one of the, and this is what the ancients, because the other thing that I've totally these ancients are brilliant. Their minds are so much more developed. They're healthier, stronger. They live longer in their quote unquote Renaissance times, all right? Because every culture you go through, this is where you have a winter and you have a summer. I mean, so cultures rise and cultures fall. Nations rise and nations fall. And there's tons of reasons for that. But the point is, in their heydays, even one of the great things, even the Kabbalistic Jews, the Jews, for a couple hundred years in Spain and southern, at the Iberian Peninsula, they had such a renaissance of intellectual, this some people don't really understand, intellectual power. They fueled the Renaissance. Many centuries, they fueled on Western civilization in ways that, it will come out, but they totally don't get the credit for it today. And then they were finally kicked out of Spain. It's a very sad story. But anyways, what I wanted to say here is that this relates to, because they're always talking about things called earth, air, wind, and fire, which is the force. I've been through this, and I'm just going to throw this out here really quick, so that everybody's saying the same thing, basically. All right, just got to learn their words. You have the four states of matter. Today we would call it solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. All right, it's taking a long time to figure out what plasma is. All right, you've got earth, air, wind, and fire. You've got matter. But the point, these are all conductors, ultimately, of light. And even light, which you have to understand, light in other dimensions is very ethereal, but light in our world of physicality there's many levels, okay, of its transmission. So when the sun comes out and it's transmitting light to us, and it goes everywhere and permeates everything that has, access to it. So the archetypes always hold up, but they have, so when you understand these fours, okay, so because like I was trying to say, there's always, they group things very logically in subsets. That's why you have fives that go together, sevens, 12s, you got fours. Fours are big because fours connect to the five. There's 5 levels of the soul, but there's 4 of them that basically we can connect to. And this is what they're telling us. And these are all exhibited ultimately in one of levels of consciousness. So if you're a brute beast, you're going to act a certain kind of way. I mean, it's like, look, okay, you act like an animal. You're not thinking before you act. You're just voracious in your appetites, or, whatever. Okay. I mean, it's not an accident or arbitrary, and it's actually a very helpful, I think it's a great analogy, when people act like brute beasts according to their carnal nature. Okay. You've got, which would be living on the earth level, the carnal plane. Okay. So these things all progressive. Then you have a Ruach, and I've been through this. And the Nephesh, see these things, everything in the universe has Nephesh, okay, which is, it's animating life, light, because light and life are really the same thing, depending on what kind of, Yeshua is life, he is life, the life of man, but he's also the light of the world. So both of these is because he operates in all of the dimensions at all of the time. Moshiach, this concept of Mashiach, Yod He Vav He, all the way up and down. The level of energy that operates in the physical is called Nephesh, which is in other cultures is called Chi or Prana, and it exists in all living souls. Even minerals have a certain amount of Prana, which is energy, which it either puts them at rest, they look on it. So you have, it's all relating. So your levels of this kingdom, mineral, vegetable, animal, and it would be Adamic. The next would be Adamic. They all relate, and they're all levels of consciousness. So someone who acts like a brute beast versus someone who acts very enlightened, so you got somebody who's a brute beast, you got somebody like a Mother Teresa who can see the world and love the world and minister to the world and give her life for the world. Okay, those are totally different souls. Okay, and it's their choice, kind of where they're operating. It's our choice at what level. So that's what it's talking about, going up and down. So you have Nephesh, you have Ruach, you have Neshama. So you have the Nephesh, which is the Prana or Chi. And this is the point. The lower level, the demonic energy is the other that feeds on our Prana. If this is the whole, I don't want to get into this, is the whole point of either demonic possession or demonic oppression or giving into bad nidos, character traits, as the Jews would say, where the negative side, the other side, the can feed off of your energy. Instead of like you and the Ruach feeding, it's a nice symbiotic relationship, it's off of negative demonic energy. So this is a very important level to understand, and this is where our fight basically is. Okay, and then you go to Ruach, which is air or wind. So we would be going from earth to air. Then we go to breath, Neshama, wind, which is the highest level. This is a level of the Siddiqs. This is a level we can get our Ruach and we get our Neshama reconnected through Yeshua haMashiach. If you are a Messianic or a an returning Ephraimite or lost sheep, whatever. All right, we're getting reconnected. Yeshua is our door to get back into these worlds of Ruach and Neshama. And ultimately, Chaya, which is the fourth world, is a world where these are soul levels, because like I've said before, it's all about the soul. See, that's what I mean. The physical body doesn't profit. It's not about our body. It's our minds, all right? It's our souls. It's the programs that are going on inside of us, really, that you can't see. Chaya is a level. This is where the holy, like this is Moshe, this is Enoch, this is Elijah, this is Yeshua. These are the mountains. Okay, Abraham. These are people who live at such a level and they accomplish things. Yahweh is so that they make covenants with Yahweh. I mean, think about it really and truly. These aren't, and this is what I want to say about the prophets, these are not normal people. These are people who have so trained themselves and are so, this is a part of the perception that we need to clear up, all right? Because a lot of people want to run around and think they're a prophet. A lot of people, if you want to be a biblical prophet, there are set in stone standards, okay? You can't make them up again. Holiness and learning how to control and train your mind, your spirit, your emotions, your body, all this stuff. I mean, all right, this is 100% clear in the Hebraic tradition, okay? Now, I got a little muddied in the Christian, but we got to clean up our act, okay? So then you have Yahida. Above that is what is called this level of Adam Cademan. This is the king, the world of the Moshiach. This is the king. This is the king who is above all the other kingdoms, okay? So when Yod He Vav He, the middle pillar, on top of Yod is this little point, all right, Keter. And that is this level of Yichara. When that little point is what Yeshua calls the stone, which the builders rejected. That is the most primordial point of Elohim internally in everything and out there, okay? And it is, that soul level root is a Mashiach. So that's why there is, and this is why the deepness of the Dead Sea Scrolls, understanding in the Zohar, this is why reincarnation is a very, is proven. Again, it's one of these things that has scholarly been redacted, I guess. Is that what they do? They go back and they examine, no, there's another word for it, I can't remember, and examine, and you can now pretty much definitively say the early church, the Essenes, in the Dead Sea Scrolls and Zoharic writings, even the Pharisees, all believed in reincarnation. And that's, I haven't started to teach on that yet. I will get to it, but it's so important and it's beautiful. Actually, I'm totally at peace with it. I have no problem, okay? And I get it. And it's so full of Elohim's justice, and it's so, when you really understand it, it's very humbling. It really makes you want to be very close to Elohim. And okay, now we've got corrections we have to make. What are they? So I don't have to, it's a very personal walk that you have. But I absolutely believe in it. Okay, but I'm not going to go there this time. So understand, but I do want to say how this is so true and embedded. Okay, I've been talking about the four worlds. Okay. This is why in the Torah, and I'm just beginning now finally to get into this understanding, oh my gosh, of the sages, the Kabbalists, the Torah, of what they're doing with the letters. See, Hebrew, those letters are the letters of creation. They're like the DNA bits that have gone out in different combinations and created everything on his winds, on his light emanations, on his conductors. So this is why I would say at the very beginning, a level of consciousness that is called gold, which is called Hokmah, which is called the highest level of understanding. All right, you can attain, but you know, there's a rigorous. It's like climbing Mount Everest a little bit. All right, but let me put it this way: every letter in the Torah, every letter, is, as it reads from the Torah scroll, is composed of four elements. See, most people understand when you put the Torah together, we know it was written without vowels, without any punctuation. I think it was written without the punctuation too. And it's all a stream of consciousness. Because this is the part of the scribal art, the scribal tradition, and the scribal discipline, where every letter in the Torah is composed of four elements. It relates to the four worlds. It'll tell you tons of information about where this is in the four worlds. The cantillation mark, or in other words, the trope, is associated with the letter. This is if there is one. So there's what's called a cantillation mark. There's a vowel associated with the letter, if there is one. And this is what Ezra and these scribes, and this is what when they wrote the Septuagint, I mean, it blows my mind that they could memorize the Torah at this level of encryption. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no idea. Okay, then there's a vowel associated with the letter. Then there's a crown atop the letter. All right, this is what I was referring to, Keter. There is a little point, cantillation point, atop of it, which represents Keter, and then there's the letter itself. So there are 4 worlds, 4 levels of understanding of consciousness embedded in every Torah letter, and then you put them together, and then there's so many, oh my gosh. I'm just going fast and touching on a bunch of stuff. That there's 3 major, and see they all relate to each other. There's 3 major control centers in our body. This is not New Age, people. This is our Torah, okay? You have the body, okay? And in the body, there's 3 programs: the brain, the heart, and the liver, okay? And they're attached to levels of soul. And this is what science is beginning to understand. Now, they're beginning to know that the heart thinks, it's intelligent. The liver is the most intelligent organ in the body. And if you have a bad liver, if everybody's got, fatty liver, I mean, all these things, see, this is where the connectedness is. If your body, let's say your liver gets a level of impurity in it, it affects everything in the body level. Conversely, if your heart, let's say if a root of bitterness grows up in your heart, it's going to spoil the whole thing, is what it's saying. And conversely, your brain, which is the control center, and it's akin to the level of neshama. So let me go through this again. You got your brain, your heart, and your liver, which is all in the tree of life. It's all coded in there. These prophets know exactly where they are and what they're dealing with. And so the liver is at the nephesh level, controls the purity of the blood. Remember, nephesh is lifeblood. The life of the flesh is nephesh, is in the blood. So there's nothing that's absolutely biblical. Controls the blood. The heart controls the aspect of the soul level of a ruach, and that is our emotional level. And it's interesting because out of that level, so this is the most compromised level in us, truly. This is the level that's Hasatan has a field day. I mean, right? He gets us to feel guilty or to get, mad. I mean, he just gets us in an emotional imbalance, emotional state, and emotional, I won't date this video. It's okay. All right. So you have the Ruach akin to our emotions, akin to the world of Yetzirah. Okay, so the first world I was talking about was the world of Asiyah. Nefesh operates in the world of Asiyah, soul, connected to heart, connected to Zera and Pin, connected to our emotional, and there's many levels of it, is controlled by the Ruach. And then you have the brain, which is the Nesh connected to our Neshama. And the brain is where if you get up to the level of having Chokmah and Bina, wisdom and understanding, you have finally entered into a realm, of the firstborn, and this is the Holy Throne, and you're finally, home. This is where you originated from, and now you're home. So it's in there. See, like I said, the Torah has 4, every letter of the Torah has 4 elements to it. Here, it's equated into the Bible, into the body. And it's a real. So I'm trying to tell you, this is real information that's really good for you to apply. Then there are, again, the 5 soul levels, which, again, I have many teachings, but Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. Okay? So I just said all that. Now, one of my points is, and just about plasma, fire. See, this is an interesting, there's so much I could say, and this video is not about that, but when fire fell on them and Pentecost, what it represents. See, fire, the true spiritual fire, we don't see. It's plasma. And there's fascinating science going on right now that the whole universe, all space is really made up of plasma. And you can heat plasma, or you can have cold plasma. Again, different states of being and what it's going to, but when you see electricity, like he saw, I saw Satan fall as lightning from heaven, that Satan is in a level, his level of understanding is pretty high up there. He once was in the garden of Elohim, all right? But he fell in the sense of he's been totally demoted. While he has that mental understanding still to a certain extent. That's why he can mimic, and you have to be very careful. He can mimic a lot of spiritual experience because he understands this, manipulate the mind. There's also, this is where you get into magic and sorcery, all this stuff. Okay, but the point is that level of, well, I forgot where I was going to go with that one. Okay. Plasma, the fire. This is a very, it's used on many levels, but one level fire is used, it says, be addicted to the work of the state. In other words, Yahweh does not like lukewarmness. You can't serve him, half in the world, half out. I mean, he doesn't want you to be, you are zealous. Phineas was zealous for Elohim, and his name went forward as a memorial for all time. Some of these people, that's why it says their name was a memorial, because they were so full of faith and believing and seeing when that woman anointed Yeshua's feet represent the world of physicality, the world of real life, and he was just going to go into his time of suffering, and sure to anoint his soul level, his body, so that he, it's almost like it's a ritual act to connect him high up with it so that he can endure and go through it. So she was just anointing him with such levels of spiritual understanding, again, mind over matter, that even though his torment and his suffering, he never lost focus. He did not lose sight of his mission. It was always before him. Hope was always before him. We were the joy. We were what he was doing. This, he would look and see us and be able to endure the torments of the cross and stuff. And so she was anointing his feet. And again, makes me want to cry, the picture where she is, and saying, and just trying to draw all that strength from the Father. It's really representative of the Mother and the Father on Yeshua for this ordeal he's going through. I mean, these people were very purposeful and intentional. And I wish this is a part of it that we will recover and stop calling everything, oh, it's New Age, oh, it's so scary. Grow up, people. It is so incredibly powerful and beautiful to live, to get control of your different levels of Yeshua, to live in these realms, to elevate your consciousness. Okay, now, one thing that this is all led me to is an understanding. So if anyone wants to call themselves a prophet, oh my gosh, I can understand why they would say, kind of teachers, yes, and probably will be judged more harshly, because it's nothing to fool around with, okay? These are not offices that you fool around with, all right? And they carry, now, let me say this, all right? So the level of prophecy that ceased, and this is all tied up with the things with the temple. This is all tied in like with the red heifer. This is all tied up with levels of purification. So much of these scenes now, I understand, even their mikvah, everything that they did, they were totally living in an alignment and harmony with heavens in a peaceful, non-combative, non-disobedient, just beautiful and leveling way, okay? One of the things, their mikvahs, when they found Qumran, they found all these ritual baths. In a lot of ways, I totally get it now, because even I'm at the level where, and I'm going to say that, but every time I take a shower, I am mikvah. I totally go in purposely, and I really connect, and I feel like, oh my gosh, I am being cleansed. The washing of water. See, there is a connectedness. This is why the Jews put a mezuzah over their door with the name, with Yad He Vav He written, because there is a connection. The energies are attracted to their like attracts like. So that's attracting literally positive light, positive energy, the presence of, which is really nothing more than his angels. Okay, so as we surround ourselves with actions that we know are food, something is why I get it. You can elevate food to such a level that it's a meditation, that it's an experience. It is it's incredible. So this is something that personally I would like to be able to be part of the process of recovering, that people can understand the intentionality of ritual, what's really going on, connect to it, and that we can access greater levels of spiritual power. All right. Now, if we understand that the main power of a prophet is his ability to channel spiritual energy. Now, this is the true prophet of Elohim with the most elevated soul. Let's say these ones from Chaya, like Moshe and Elijah, and obviously Yeshua, who was really actually higher, Moshiach. This is the whole point. His root soul does come from a higher level. I believe this. Okay. But this is Moshe, was it such when, part of, with the Red Sea, where he was able, Yahweh said, look at, you know what to do. Speak to the elements. See, this is something, a lot of Christianity is recovering this in the name it and claim it in the faith movement. They really have latched onto this truth, but it's really true. When you operate from such a level of consciousness where you literally are tapped into the Father in a very real way, and, face to face, your prayers get answered. You are, it's so, the connectedness is so strong. This is why Elijah, they did such great miracles. And the Essenes were able to do this. They were known as healers and therapeutics throughout the whole ancient world. There is so much that, again, we could recover if we could understand and have peace with this concept of how the heavens and the earth work in complete harmony with each other. One fills the other, turns around, the other fills, oh my gosh. Okay, so anyways, what I want to say is a prophet, his main power is the ability to channel spiritual energy. And this is the story of them, all right? The reason is obvious. Through their prayers or their words or their speaking or their people like Abraham, Moshe, Yeshua, Elijah were able to channel such spiritual energy, and it was therefore likely that their prayers would be answered. So this is where Yeshua could speak. This is what Moshe did. Speak to the elements. You're just talking to winds and airs and, low energies in the lower realms. That should not be hard to get to that level. Well, let me say hard. Not many people can get to that level, all right? But I understand what's going on, that in the hierarchy of things, an Adamic man is certainly better than a mineral and can, oh my gosh. Anyways. These are levels. See, so what is happening is that the prophet, and all prophets are at different levels, and they are able, their soul is leaving their body and literally ascending to spiritual worlds and up the middle pillar. Now, a Hebrew prophet is totally strictly in the zone of Yod He Vav He, the middle pillar, the tree of life, the Moshiach, and they're up and down. And when you go, these prophets would literally be going up into the level of actually Gevera, where the throne of Elohim is, where he is in the Holy Academy. These things are real. I doubt they're not wearing literal, earthly made of linen seats, but they are, I don't know how to say this. The correspondences are there, okay? But the true prophet, because he's able to channel this spiritual prophet, he is able to clearly focus it enough to obtain an unambiguous message or vision and retain it and channel back its power. So like I said, these people can go to the throne, listen, literally listen in on. One of the meaning of the word sud, which I believe is secret, comes down to basically a concept in the Torah. Do your own research, it's there. It's not just a secret, but they're in the secret meeting. This is the secret council. Not everybody gets up there. A lot of people get up, you can hear from demon, you can hear their plans, or you can hear lower angels' plans, you can get information. But these prophets, and I trust them 100%. This is what I do trust the prophets of Israel. Okay, because to me, the way they put this together, they retained it, the way they encoded it, came for it, it's miraculous. It's got divine all over it. How nobody could do this, survive it, and keep these records and do this in a natural way. It's just, in my opinion, not possible. So the ability to focus spiritual energy, all right? When I say spiritual energy, yes, like say energy you would harness to be able to affect the laws of physics, a miracle, but also channel, your mind, your thoughts. And like I said, you're so focused, you are and it's like a radio. The whole point is, the Wi-Fi band, or, you're able to find the signal, your brain, you're able to pick up that wavelength, literally. You're able to retain it clear of static. You yourselves, and this is why our prophets, I wish people would understand this, especially evangelical Christians. This was always one of the there's Bible stories about it. The true prophets, these were holy men and women of Elohim. All right, I can't stress that enough. So in the Luciferian magic, their way is it works kind of the total opposite. This is what you find out when they profane things. They oh my gosh, it's lewd, crude, and disgusting. They take all the holiness and to attract negative demonic energies. Okay, we want to attract holy, spiritual, our Heavenly Father's energies. Okay, this ability to focus this spiritual energy. So I'm saying it's on a mental level, it's on a soul level, it's in your body level. You got to have control of the whole person. The spirit of the process is subject to the prophets. This is what they're saying. These people, and they don't Yahweh just doesn't come and pull you out. Usually these people, because their lifestyle, they're holy people, they're always listening to Elohim. They're always in discussion with Elohim. They're always living in alignment and harmony, basically. And this is what makes the story of Jonah so funny, and he thinks he can leave, whatever. Okay, that just popped in my brain. Sorry. Okay, the ability to focus the spiritual energy is a task that took great discipline and many years of intensive training. This is why, and this has to do with another idea of when you enter parts, when you enter the garden, when you enter the deep mystical sod level understanding, they have this. There's a story that kind of developed where four great rabbi minds went into parts or into the highest level. They finally arrived at the highest levels of understanding. And the story isn't the same for everybody, all of them. One of them goes crazy. One of them becomes a heretic. One of them dies. And one of them is okay, goes out. Rabbi Akiva goes in peace and leaves in peace, okay? So this is why you are playing with quote unquote fire and purity, and these things are so important. All right. But I'm beginning to understand that story and understand, why somebody would become a heretic. Like I said, because of the text, because if you can't really be led through this whole minefield of the mind, it's one of the major traps. Satan has all sorts of mental traps people can get into out there. If you don't really have a close relationship with the Ruach, Shekinah, our Heavenly Mother, who is leading us through this wilderness. Oh my gosh. Okay. So in other words, what I say, you don't wake up one day and you're a prophet. It takes years and years of concerted training mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Seriously. Okay. And this makes me feel much better. If I'm going to trust Isaiah, I'm glad the guy gave it his all. I'm glad these people, this is the point. These are why these are holy Siddiqs, and they live above, and they're worthy of deep reverence and honor. We don't worship them, but these are not. And when people come through their tikkun, their life, and doing their rectification successfully, oh my gosh, the power in that. The word that the Bible used to describe the process of seeking prophecy is hitnaiv. It comes out to this word kind of hitobet. It's a sense of the verb to prophesy. This literally means that the individual is prophesying, trying to obtain a clear message while in a mystical state. Now, what's coming out, which is really interesting, or to me anyway, is this world of meditation, what it is, how the prophets attained it, different, like the Ruach HaKodesh, or oh gosh, this gets really deep. So there are whole books on there, and I'm beginning to understand. Now, there's two ways. I've read two kind of paths, okay? And I think they're both valid, and I think you just have to walk with Elohim. So I'm not, the sages will tell you that, by clean living, holy living, by studying deeply in Torah, making it your number one priority. This is the point, okay? Digging up the field, all right? Getting deeper than on the surface, getting those gems out. You can attain Ruach HaKodesh, or this level of prophecy. But then the flip side is there's just as strong a tradition that holy men and women of Elohim have entered these states through states of consciousness where they have consciously navigated their minds into levels of, like, trying to tune into that signal. Okay, I think both are valid, and I actually think both of them are part of the same package. Okay, so this is what I believe, and I believe that this level of prophecy, you have to get down to the soul level, you have to get into the mysteries of the spiritual realms, get all the way to what they call the level of absolute, in order to be able to operate at this level and to be a spokesman for Elohim, because Elohim is in the Most High. Yes, he inhabits all the lower realms and everything, but when he's over the whole earth. So his decrees, everything is coming from the top, all right? And you just don't waltz in there. And Yahweh doesn't, okay? So there are 5, here's another little snippet here of this kind of understanding, because I would like to, and I'm just going to give a quick list here, again, how they code these things into 4s and 5s and what they're saying, but like Rabbi Chaim Vital, some of these Kabbalists this is part of the tradition of what they have been imparting, and part of it is it's been very secret, because a lot of it is, there has been a level of protection. This is because because the Jews have had this understanding of this level of connection to the Most High. They really have kept it to a large extent, in their breast, in very close to their heart, very close to the cord. And so you got to get really close to the center, to the fire, to really find this level. So that's why the disciples, on the day of Pentecost, those that were there, 120, you think the whole nation was there? No, there was a select group of people alive at the planet who this was it. They were going for it, hook, line, and sinker. They were going to be in the right place at the right time to receive this, the power, and you thought that they believed it was going to come down through this ascended, through Yeshua, as he ascended. Now, there's 5 types of attainment they talk about. And see, what we don't understand is Ruach HaKodesh, which is, the highest level of the mind of Elohim, all right? Then there are souls of Sadiqim. This is just another way of saying what I just said. The righteous souls that reach a level of Ruach and Neshama, and then those that are in this world of Haya, okay? There are angels, which are called Megidim, I think, okay, because these are things that you'll encounter as you read and in the different traditions, and what they're just sort of, because this is what happened this is what Isaiah and a lot of the prophets, they had angels come and kind of take them, escort them through these different levels of consciousness. Now, I believe these places are real and populated. It's just that us in our present earthly state, we can't go there in our physical bodies. I don't believe. A couple people like Enoch were assumed bodily. But for the most part, we're got to wait till the resurrection. Okay. So angels do come to people and bring them up to these levels of consciousness. All right. Then Elijah, like I was saying in the beginning, Elijah HaNavi, Elijah the prophet, who started a school for the prophets, which is really, in my opinion, where the Essenes, the Zadokites, this is sort of the stream. This is the path that they have been following and they morph into. All right. Who through the literature, through reading Torah, through this, you can attain Ruach HaKodesh, all right? Because when you read Torah, when you do Kabbalistic studies, when you meditate upon his word, this is the point, it's meditate. Think of that, you're thinking deeply. And in your deep thinking, in your cognitive, the Ruach will come to you and help you. Many times it's happened to me. I've been thinking about something, well, that doesn't jive with that. Because a lot of this is taking the different contradictions or what seems obscure and trying to think deeply and trying to unravel it. And so many times I will, for the Ruach, and it's like it's like, I get it. I see it. I see the relationship. I see, I'm not thinking deep enough. I don't have it, and you can get to the different levels. They're not contradictions. It's so interesting. But, so this is part of what the tradition with Elijah. Dreams is another one. I mean, I've had prophetic dreams, which a lot of people have. You get a dream, and it's totally, and even in the mystical rites, there is a whole concept of our souls and where our soul goes when we sleep and what is going on. I mean, there's so much information, and it all makes sense, and it all fits, and it is all being proven, in my opinion, today by science, by the secularists, being repackaged to us. But you know what? You can't kick Yahweh off his throne. He is going to win in the end, and all truth is going to come back, and he's going to get the glory for it. Because this information is in a lot of the mystical cultural traditions of the world. They just don't acknowledge the high God, Yahweh, Vav, He. They have other gods, all right, which is really other rulers or on the hierarchical, and those are whole teachings and stuff that I have touched on. Supernatural powers, and this is why can be found in great Talmudic sages. I mean, this has always been people who can elevate their living and their mentally live at these levels will exhibit great holiness and great power. And may this fall on, seriously, a second Pentecost where we really receive the fire of Elohim and we can go out and quote unquote burn up all this chaff, these lies and these distortions and those profanities, and we can help usher in truth once and for all. And with our Moshiach, we will throw our cloaks down and we will throw our crowns in and we will usher, I can't wait, the king will come. So anyways, I hope that blessed you. I will be back. We will have more recordings. So shalom in Yeshua haMashiach's blessed name.